somewhat beyond the wetlands boundary. And is some of that control clearing out Phragmites? Is any of that, I mean, I think that some members of the community would be happy to go out there with a weed whacker and take some of that down on a regular basis. But how, is it permitted?
It's interesting you mentioned Phragmites in particular, because part of both the CE and the memorandum of agreement state that we are obligated to control Phragmites. Past contracts have been that Envirotech would come and spray Phragmites, and when it died, they were supposed to come and cut it down and take it away. Well, they would spray and it would die, but they never cut it down. If you as a homeowner want to go out and remove at least the vertical stalks of the Phragmites, it's simple enough to do. You let us know when you're going to do it. We will send a notification to DENREC, the Parks Department in DENREC is who we have to deal with, and say, we're going to have a community cut on such and such a day where we're going to go out there and we're going to cut down all the dead Phragmites. And that's permitted as long as we give them prior notification.
But then doesn't it grow right back?
If indeed it was sprayed properly, no.
So they'll help us.
Well, we paid a lot of money to have that stuff sprayed over the last couple of years, and they didn't come back and cut it down. So it should all be dead, and you're going to know in probably the next 2 weeks whether it's coming back or not, because you'll start seeing the green shoots coming up. If that's the case, then we'll bring in an outside contractor, do the application we need done on the Phragmites, and then we can remove it. The Phragmites that are in the ditches that I'm talking about by 15 are dead. They are dead, and they're a plug. So I'm going to remove those.
So just to review this, I thought I heard that after that conservative sign or conservation easement sign, homeowners were not allowed to touch that part beyond that to the pond because it wasn't our property. But you're saying we can in fact go in there and deal with Phragmites on our own?
Phragmites is the exception.
Okay.
It's the only exception to what you can do in the CE, is Phragmites eradication.
And we should do it instead, in lieu of somebody else doing it for us? I'm just...
No. It doesn't matter whether you do it or you hire your landscaper to do it.
Oh, so we do have to take charge
But
of it.
you have to do the notifications.
Okay.
And that notification under the agreements has to come from the board. So you tell us, I want to hire ProServe to come and spray the Phragmites behind my house and cut it down so that I have the view that I should have, but the Phragmites.
So we incur the charges. I'm not complaining, I'm just looking for information. We pay for that, so
Yeah.
on, okay.
That's Dave.
Paul, the major project that you described earlier, where that significant blockage is near the 15th golf hole in that creek, how much is it going to cost to fully remediate that area? And when do you expect that to start and be completed?
The cost I have from Mark is not to exceed $3,800. And I haven't talked with him about scheduling. Part of it is I have to walk the lower end and mark the trees that we want to keep on that ditch. And the lower end being between the 15th fairway and Bethany Loop, or along the cart path.
Right.
There's everybody here has played golf or walked along there knows that you got big trees adjacent to that ditch, and then you've got all these little inch and a half trash trees that have popped up. I'm marking the, as I call them, the good trees, so he can take out the trash trees to clean and reline and set up the ditch the way it's supposed to.
So that's a significant cost savings with him doing that, as you described earlier.
Yeah. That's why I try to be a good sort.
How much pressure has that put on Mark to, because he's got to staff it, he's got to do that work and.
The deal I have with Mark is that these projects will be done at times when his crew needs something to fill in. None of the work with Mark will be done in the golf season. And the golf season typically starts the 15th of May. So that's why I say we will spend our summer evaluating what has to be done in the fall so that his people have things to do. Their salary, this isn't something like we're gonna get them overtime. I think he only has one hourly person. These are all salaried people. They're being paid, so we're just filling in work that they can do for us and extending possibly their work year and not having a time when, as happens here seasonally, people go into a layoff and collect unemployment, seasonal unemployment, and then come back and at such another time. We're trying to avoid that because that type of thing really costs the board, the golf board anyway, more money.
Okay, on the question of phragmites that was coming up, does that hold true for the big pond? Any phragmite that's along the bulkheads and the riprap there, can that also be treated and?
It can be treated. In some cases, it was supposed to be sprayed and treated under the contracts that were in place last year.
Okay.
Because I have, and I don't have them with me, but if somebody wants to contact me and say, I want to sit down and see the invoices that were paid last year to identify work areas for Phragmites eradication, then you can see, okay, this area has already been sprayed. Yes, with notification, you can go and have it cut down, or you can go and cut it down. But we have to notify.
Okay, so we have to contact you to let you know what.
Easiest way is to contact me. I happen to know that the beach area and the area behind Tom Ryan's house on Bethany, on Canalway East, thank you, Canalway East was sprayed. That was sprayed in the late fall. But I don't know whether they went back and cut anything down. Yeah.
Oh, I'll wait till they're done.
Do you also keep a reserve? You have a $65,000 budget, but in case of any.
We have a reserve fund
Reserve fund that you can tap into for your emergencies?
for emergencies that deal with the environmental status of the community. The emergency to have the trees removed next to her house would not have been normally under the guidance of Ponce and Wetlands people. The reality has become that as we get into this, we're no longer just dealing with ponds and wetlands. My committee, because we have 3 members of the committee on the board, actually, probably should be called the Environmental Committee, because our job has expanded beyond just the classic ponds and wetlands. We're looking at drainage issues along roads, we're looking at emergency tree removal, we're looking at storm damage, biologic storm damage, not homeowner storm damage. So it's really expanded into managing the environment of our community. Ponds and wetlands, to me, is kind of a misnomer. But I can live with that. That's an easy misnomer to live with. Yes, ma'am.
I attended the first meeting as a representative for Topsail Village and left a form and never had any response on it. We have a builder's drainage pond that was left behind a couple of our townhouses and drains into doesn't drain anywhere at the moment. They never cleared it out, and it's a mosquito breeding area, and it's in the wetlands. We've asked to have it graded out or something so that would not have any more mosquito growth there, but
We'll take your information again on that because I don't have a record of that on the complaint list that we have.
okay, it's behind Unit 21 at the end of Topsail Village.
If you would please fill out one of the forms in the mailroom.
Well, I filled one out at that meeting.
Okay,
last
well,
time.
you fill it out and give it to myself or to Tom,
Okay,
and we'll take a look and see what can be done.
all right, thank you.
Let me go back to the mosquito question for a moment. When you mentioned the state does a lot of the spraying, do we also have independent contractors who come through with like a unit on the back of a Jeep? The community?
They're actually state funded.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. So if you have a particular concern, you can call the Fish and Wildlife Division of DENREC and say, we have a particular infestation as a result of standing water someplace. They can send the vehicle, they'll also send a notice to the board that says you gotta deal with standing water.
Well, does the helicopter fly over this area? Or is that
Supposed to.
requested?
Supposed to.
Supposed to?
And they were also talking about, they had hired, and I got this from the news last night, they said they've also, not only state helicopters, they've hired 2 private contracting helicopters, and they had, and they were in the process of getting the private roadside contractors up to speed to start doing that. The states and the health departments of the various states are being very proactive because of the Zika virus.
Sure.
So if you have a particular area that's a problem, pick up the phone and let them know.
Do we need to work that through you?
No,
just so
no,
you're
no.
informed?
This is an individual health issue. You have an individual health concern about a particular spot, like this lady behind you. Pick up the phone and call DENREC, Division of Fish and Wildlife, and the worst they can say is, we'll put you on the list and see what we can do about it.
Is there any point person that we speak with there?
Honestly, I don't know.
So they'll react with what else calls them?
I'm assuming that there's someone manning a mosquito control desk to
And
take
it's,
complaints.
how do you spell DENREC? Is it abbreviated for?
The Delaware Natural Resources, Delaware Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control.
Paul, you alluded to the fact that we had a terrible algae problem on the Cape Pond, Upper Pond last summer. And it sounds like part of it is you're working on a plug which is before you get to the pond, so there's not probably enough water getting into Cape Pond right now. Tell me if I'm wrong. And then you alluded to the fact you were going to correct something at the outlet of Cape Pond. It appeared that the flow was an issue with algae last summer.
Well, the flow is an issue, and I've got to work from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. There's 2 different ways you look at trying to fix drainage. Do you start at the bottom of the hill and work up, or you start at the top and work down? If you start at the bottom and work up, you're constantly fighting the water coming to you. If you start at the top and work down, the water that is impounded flows away from you, and you work down to those plugs.
Right.
So you can increase the flow. One of the things in ponds J and K we found last year was that the aerator diffusers had to be relocated because they weren't in the best locations.
Right.
And in J, I believe, actually were forcing the algae up against the banks and up against the bulkheads by the townhouses, as opposed to getting it to swirl and go out the drainage ways it was supposed to.
Right.
We did have some of those relocated, and probably this spring, some of the committee members and myself will be out of my little John boat realigning where some of these are.
Yeah. But you referred to the fact you were working on the flow, uphill, downhill. I'm just curious about what's the timing. I mean, the pond right now is in the best condition I've seen it in probably 3 or 4 years.
Well,
But it was a disaster last summer.
I understand, and I expect that Mark will be working on these ditches in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because as he gets closer and closer to the golf season, he's got less and less time.
Yeah, that's a little bit of my concern. We're saving a lot of money, but we're not solving a problem if he's so busy that he can't
Well,
be spending his time
Right,
working
at
on
this
those
point,
things.
at this point in time, he's not that busy that he can't do the work. After the 1st of May, he's gonna be too busy to do the work. Now, the clearing, the lining of the ditch over here is, he said, a half day to a 1 day job. Probably gonna be 2 half days. Taking the plugs out is, he said, probably 2 to 3 days, which means it's probably 6 half days. As he has time, goes over to take care of it, moves on.
Is there any way of ascertaining how he's doing in terms of timing? My concern is that pond is
No, I
a
haven't had a
tremendous
chance,
asset.
I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk to him about the scheduling. I just sent him an email this morning saying that the board approves the expenditures yesterday.
Well, I'm just concerned that that is a tremendously valuable asset to the few people who live on that pond. It's the
Well-
most valuable asset we have. And
It's
well, last summer, it was just not worth having.
The environment here is the single biggest asset that we all have.
Yes.
And that's why I said people have to be patient and understand that this is not, it's taken 20 years to get here. I'm trying to fix it in 3. So, you know, if, as I said at the beginning, I'm not gonna make everybody happy. But we're doing the best we can with what we have. And as problems develop, we will be proactive, not reactive in addressing these problems. Because I want to go for the long-term solution, not a quick fix.
Yeah,
And believe me, Envirotech's spraying of ponds last year was not a quick fix. It wasn't a permanent fix.
Oh, I understand that.
It may have made things look better. And I don't want to sound like I'm banging on this contractor. I mean, he had a contract, he negotiated a contract, and he fulfilled the contract. Problem was, the contract didn't do what we needed it to do.
Could
And
we-
again, I'm not beating on the people who had this job before me. They're good people trying to do the best they could with the resources and knowledge they have. I'm 43 years of experience in the environmental field. You don't find that every day.
I guess.
But I've also seen it.
I would like to pursue this a little bit. Saving money is a wonderful thing, but if it takes 5 years to get something fixed, it's not worth, I'm 76 years old, I'll never see the benefit of that. Kids will. I don't have any kids.
I'm not saying that pond J and K won't be fixed.
I'm just
until
asking
5.
the timing.
I've said earlier on that this fall, when the vegetation's down, we're going to do the evaluation of the drainage of J and K to Jeremy's branch.
Okay.
If we improve the flow across 15 into J and through 16 and into J and K, then in the fall, improve the flow out of J and K. By next spring, that whole flow system should show great improvement.
Okay, could I ask that come next spring, we talk about this and perhaps decide we're gonna spend more money and get it, if it isn't done next spring?
We're going to have these informational meetings roughly every 3 to 4 months. The idea of, as we said, it was the first one in October. Nobody is served if everybody is ignorant. We have to tell all the people, or as many of the people who show up, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're progressing. It isn't enough to just say X number of homeowners are in violation of the memorandum of agreement if those homeowners don't understand what the memorandum of agreement says. And they don't understand what we're trying to do to solve all the problems.
I know, I've been coming to these meetings for 15 years, not every year, but, and frankly, I've known all about the environmental area and all the stuff you've been talking about. It's been well known to us, and I assume it is to many people who are here. It's not news.
Not to belabor the subject. But have you read it? Have you read